Hey guys, and welcome to my channel and welcome to this video. Today we will be painting a beautiful bird on a blossom tree, and this is the next video in my spring collection, spring marathon. We'll see, maybe. Today we will be painting a bird. I did do my sketch earlier on just a regular printing paper, and now I'm tracing it on the watercolor paper using this graphite paper. Sketch, as always, is available for download. It's a free download, so you can find the link in the description box, and if you want to download it for yourself, trace it and join in, that would be awesome. Today's video won't be really a real-time video, but I will be showing you every single step of the way and guiding you through this painting process. I'm planning to do a loose painting, so it's not going to be tight. We're not going to paint every single flower, just going to make that part around the bird in the focus, and we will paint a little bit more details on the bird and those flowers around the bird, and everything else will be quite loose. So this will be a nice loose practice, and you will get a few pointers and also a few tips how to do a looser painting. You know, I do know that a lot of the times people are asking me, well, it's so hard to paint loose. You think you just add a couple of splatters, you just do some topping in with your brush, adding some paint here and there, but actually at the end it becomes a little bit harder to paint looser than to paint tight, especially when you are using a reference photo. And just following a reference photo, you have everything on it, just follow every step, do the paint here and there. And if you're doing a painting in a looser style, it does take a little bit of the imagination and your vision of that painting. So when I do a loose painting, I always say to myself, just give yourself, you know, a free hand and do whatever it comes to you. I'm not planning a loose painting. I just know a few things that I do want to put on it and then just go with it. I just look at my colors, what they're doing, how they're traveling on a paper, if I want to do wet on wet, wet on dry. So as I said, just don't be bothered with any rule. Just give yourself a free hand and do whatever you like to do. Just watch your colors, just see what they're doing on the paper and work with that. And when I finished tracing my sketch, I've just got a kneaded eraser and picking up the excess graphite. I don't like the graphite on my paper. It just leaves those ugly markings, and I don't want to move it around the paper when I start to paint and use a watercolor. So I do like to use this kneaded eraser to remove the excess graphite. Afterwards, I have just picked up a clean water and I'm wetting the entire paper. And as you can see, I did not really put the masking tape around. I'm not going to be bothered with the edges. Where the paint goes, it goes. Where it stops, it stops. I'm not going to be bothered with that. Then I picked up a little bit of the yellow. This is a warm yellow, and just tapping in here and there onto my paper and onto a little bit on the bird, just painting in the blossom around the bird and on the tree, and then adding a little bit of the paint on the bird. The paper is completely wet, so there will be a lot of bleeds, and that doesn't really matter. Later on we will be doing more details on the bird and also on the flowers, so it's fine even if your paint bleeds. That's just fine. Just don't add too much of the pigment, so you cannot later on add a little bit more on top. Just make this first layer quite loose, quite transparent, and well, not too dark. I do want that part in the background not to stand out so much. I do want it to be a little bit lighter, and the bird is going to be the thing that's going to stand out and be a little bit more saturated in color. Then I picked up a little bit of this skin pink again from my pastel collection, and then mix it in with a little bit of pretty pink from Etchr, and then just topping in here and there, creating a little bit more of the blossom, some maybe shades in the blossom. And now just picking up clean water and topping in onto the color, onto the wet paper, and you can see straight away how it moves a pigment a little bit and creates beautiful textures. Now splattering a little bit of the warm yellow, and I will also splatter this. This is a coffee brown, and I'm gonna splatter that coffee brown mixed in with a little bit of the sepia from the white nights, and just adding in a couple of branches here and there. I'm using this Lebenzon brush. I do like this brush, to use this brush when painting branches and thin lines. It has very nice pointy tip, and the belly is a little bit thicker, so when you press it a little bit harder, you can add quite a amount of the pigment. It holds a lot of water, and when you just use it very lightly, just a tip, it can create beautiful thin lines. So adding in a little bit more of the sepia, and you can see my branches aren't full. I'm just painting them broken. You can see part of the branch, then part not, so it looks like there is a blossom in front of that branch. And a little bit more of the yellow on the bird here and there. Now I'm mixing in some green and again that warm yellow to create this lighter, brighter yellow, something similar to sap green. And adding it onto my bird, you can see the paper is still wet, and it just, the pigment floats all around and just gives that beautiful feathery effect. Some coffee brown just beneath the beak and onto the belly, and then some grayish color mixed in, blue and a little bit of that coffee brown to create some grayish color. And you can again paint the bird any color you like. I thought this would be a very nice contrast, green and yellow to that pink. A little bit more of the splatters with just a clean water, some splatters with pink, while the paint and paper is still wet. And some of the branches got covered and bled into the other colors, so I decided to add a little bit more of those and left it to dry completely. And now that it is dry completely, I will be doing details onto my bird and also onto the flowers around the bird. First, I've picked up some sepia from White Nights and painting in the lower part of the wing. And I did pick up a little bit of the clean water and smudge that line because I don't want it to be too harsh. And just doing a little bit more of the details onto the feather. First with that sepia. And using this detail brush. And I can do very nice fine details with that one. It has pointed tip. This one is a synthetic brush. So when you're using a synthetic brush, it usually holds a lot less water. And there is no, well, risk that it drips, that the water drips from your brush. So make sure, anyway, whatever brush you use to, when you pick up the water, when you rinse it, to dry it onto your towel so it doesn't drip any paint onto your paper. And then just doing details around the eye and the eye beak, and also some details on the belly of my bird. And I will be adding a little bit more of the pigment to make it again more saturated in color. So just using warm yellow, coffee brown, that's something like a rose sienna, I guess, green, something like a sap green, a darker green, sepia, and a little bit of the grayish color. And those are the colors I will be using for my bird, adding here and there. And now I'm just creating this again feathery effect, doing some lines, but not just all the way, but here and there, just because we do want it to be visible that it's feather, but we don't want to paint every single feather, every single hairline, you know. We just do want to make the impression of that. now with again mix of blue and coffee brown, this grayish color, I will be painting the legs and feet for the bird. This one I do not want to make it too detailed. This is slightly already out of focus, so you don't have to paint every single detail on her legs. Later on we will be adding a little bit more of the details with ink pen. So for now I'm just gonna do watercolors and later on do a few details with ink. Now for the flowers, I will be painting them pink using this Scheme Pink, lighter pink and Pretty Pink from Etchr. And not gonna paint the entire petal same saturation, but just gonna add a little bit of the pigment in some parts, rinse my brush in water to clean it, and then just move the paint around to create a lighter part of the petal. And you will see all the petals on the sketch. So again, as I said, I won't be so bothered with that, with those flowers, because this is a loose painting and not every single detail is important to be there. Some buds. And that is actually a little bit more of that pigment, this time a little bit more saturated, Pretty Pink and Scheme Pink, lighter pink. Just adding it here and there, and then I do want it to stand out next to the background because the background is quite light and I don't want those flowers in the foreground to be so light. I do want to make them a little bit more saturated and darker, so I am adding a little bit more of the pigment to make it slightly stand out, and that's the same way how I'm going to paint all the flowers. And adding some stems for those flowers with this lighter brown. And then adding the branch on which my bird is standing on, and you can see I'm not gonna add even that one in so many details, just a few, well, I guess well, hints of that branch. Not everything has to be connected and has to make sense individually, but all together when you're looking at your painting, it does make sense. A little bit of the brownish and yellow color for the center, and then a little bit more details on my bird with some green. I do want to make it the same saturation and value as those flowers, so I will just try to match those two because they are standing out, and you can see that around the bird I have left the white part because I do want it to stand out and to be bright and to shine. A little bit of the splatters with this pink, this time a little bit more saturated, then pick up a little bit of the water to make it slightly less saturated. And again, a few splatters with yellow. I have covered bird with my hand, but if it makes it easier, you can put some clean towel on top. Just make sure that your bird is completely dry and everything around it so you do not pick up the paint. And as I said earlier, I'm doing a few details with ink pen. This is ink pen from Micron, Pigma Micron, and just adding few feathers, not all the way. It's quite light. I'm using this quite thin ink pen, so it's not so very visible. those lines, but they are there. A few details also on her feet, his feet. And I did add a little bit more of the black also around the eye to make that eye stand out. It's big also. Just add whatever details you like. If you like to go all the way around the bird and draw it with ink, that's fine. Also around the flowers. If you're doing it for the bird, I do recommend doing it also for the flowers. Now a few dots for those central stamens for my flowers. Just topping in some dots with this black ink. And then with white Posca pen, I'm just adding a little bit more of the details, white details around my bird's eyes and here and there on its wings and feathers, just to do some lighter ones and to create some highlights on those feathers. And also I will be adding a little bit more of the details to my flowers, just adding the smaller stamens where I placed my dots. They are, well, I guess not so visible here on the painting, but they are there. If you don't have a Posca pen or maybe white gel pen, you can use white gouache here, or maybe some white pastel, white pencil. That's also fine. And when finished with that, I did decide to add a little bit more of the splatters with pink and with yellow, quite saturated ones, just to create a little even more shine. And with that, I'll be finishing off this video and this painting. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you're gonna give it a try. It's not really that difficult. Just practice some looser painting, and if you do like it, please hit the like button, share it, and comment. If you haven't still, please do subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. And again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.